What is going on, Breakthrough Success listeners? Marc Guberti here. In this episode, we're going to talk about building, scaling, and monetizing your email and SMS list so you have more than 200,000 subscribers. Our guest who joins us in this episode, he's produced those types of results for him and his clients. He's the founder and CEO of Viber Media, a performance marketing agency specializing in helping 8 and 9 figure brands unlock scalable, high margin digital growth. Our guest has worked with professional athletes, small business owners, and Fortune 1000 CEOs to drive measurable results in email, SMS, paid social, growth marketing, and influencer campaigns. Our guest who joins us in this episode of Breakthrough Success is none other than Jesse K. Jesse, welcome to the show.
Mark, thanks for having me. We were just saying before we started taping, we literally chatted on a bunch of your virtual summits probably 7, 8 years ago, if not longer. So it's so nice to see you again on here and do one of these again.
Jesse, it is a pleasure to have you back once more. I remember you got started at 16. I also got started relatively young. I know you went on to work at Goldman Sachs. My mom also worked there, and now you do Viber Media. We're gonna obviously focus on the growing the email list, but I'm wondering if we could go into your hustle and how you've been able to achieve these types of results. You started at a young age, you've had multiple startups. What has been some of that fuel behind the hustle for people who maybe they have big goals and they want to get more done?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's just it was an interesting to start, probably similar to you. Like I love it. Like I enjoy building things and growing things from nothing into something. And that's kind of been the core one on following my passion. Like I none of this is work to me. Like all of this is truly actually just fun. Like I wake up every day excited to do all of this. I think independent of that, it's just testing a lot and being willing to fail. Like I think a lot of people get caught up in the what happens if this goes wrong or what happens if this doesn't work out when really the benchmark is that a vast majority of the things are going to fail. You just need to identify it quick and pivot quicker. So that's been the biggest takeaway for me is I'm excited to try new things. And when stuff doesn't work, you make it work very quickly. You pivot.
Yes, Jesse's right in that regard. It's definitely the building blocks. You just want to, you have an idea of how it could turn out, and you want to pursue all these different ideas. With the email list, you definitely have to build from that first piece. You start with 0 subscribers, you have to build up. Jesse, I know you've helped a lot of business owners with big budgets grow their email lists and have successful campaigns. When we're talking about someone who wants to grow their email list, what are some of the first things that you're asking them or discussing them when you're sitting down with a client to discuss the plan for growing the email list?
I think the main one is what's the goal? Because I think that a lot of people say, I just want to grow a list. And it's like, why? Like, is it that you want to grow to 100,000 subscribers so you can say 100,000 subscribers? Or are you trying to turn them into customers? Is it an e-commerce brand? Is it a publisher? Is it a recurring revenue business? Is it a newsletter? What is the end goal and working backwards? Because otherwise, I think you're just kind of shooting an arrow without knowing what the target is. But a lot of times, it's in a perfect world, if we were having this conversation in a year from now looking back, what would have happened? Is it that acquisition cost was break even and now you have the lifetime value of a customer? Is it that you were profitable on a welcome series? Is it just, hey, I want to have a ton of customers on my email list so I can send them an email about our Black Friday blast, although it's June right now, so you can prep for that. I think that's where you have to start because there's 75 different ways you can go about building and intentionally scaling a list of any kind based on what the end KPI is.
Yeah, I mean, the getting to 200,000 email subscribers, it's definitely good to set ambitious goals, but some people they make full-time incomes with 1,000 email subscribers. So it's really based on what you're doing with that email list. But it's obviously good to know how to grow the emails because then you're getting in front of more people. There are a lot of different ways to do it: cold outreach, social media posts, being on YouTube. Jesse, I'm wondering if you could share with us what are some of the best options for growing the email list and how do you approach that conversation with the client?
I think it varies depending on is this a personal brand? Is this a big e-commerce brand? Is this a massive Fortune 1000 company? The tried and true one that I've seen for, let's call it the 8 and 9 figure businesses that is most of the time we're spending on is two components. Number one, where is traffic coming from? We've seen a lot of success on pushing paid traffic to a website. So you have some type of, let's say for it's an e-commerce store, you have some bait piece that you're driving traffic on so that they get a first time discount code, they get entered into a giveaway, they get some exclusive offer that sits on a Meta ad or a Google ad, whatever it is to drive traffic to a landing page. The issue a lot of people have that I see is they get that offer down perfect, but then they're like, why aren't we getting subscribers? And the problem is the way that the names are getting collected on the landing page needs to get optimized or whatever it is. But typically it's let's run traffic and then make sure you have a good way to receive and acquire the names once they've hit your website. And then from there, nurture them through an entire sequence. Because in a perfect world, and for a lot of clients, we've gotten it to the point where it's almost a self-liquidating funnel. So the cost of acquisition of the person on Meta, on Google, or whatever it is, in aggregate is profitable by the time they get out of a welcome series. And then at that point, it becomes how much money can we dump into this thing because it's profitable from the start.
And I want to go into the ads a little bit more because you mentioned something very valuable where the ads can sometimes be working wonders, but then it's the landing page that doesn't. But you could also have the case of bad ads where it was just poor targeting. So how can you tell if, let's say, you're doing the ads and you're not happy with results? How can you tell if it's an ad problem or if it's a landing page problem?
It's funny you asked this because we literally had an example yesterday. It was one of the craziest things I've seen in the agency world that we've worked with. We're doing work with a client who very mature company, 30 years they've been around, and they were wondering why they were having an issue on ad reads converting. And they were like, maybe it's the ad copy for these podcasts, or maybe it's the offer, maybe it's the shows, or maybe it's the landing page. Simply changing the landing page structure into a smoother user experience, 7x'd the amount of qualified people coming through that thing from that one change. So I think there's a lot of those use cases. And then on the other side, we see stuff the other way where it's like your landing page. And the great part about data now is there's so much that you can see it. Like I would look at best benchmarks for your sector on when somebody hits a landing page, what percent of them are converting? Or on Meta, what is a fair cost per click or cost per conversion on any of those? And do make sure you look at them separate because I think a lot of people just blend a combined number and they're like, we're within benchmark, we're winning. But in reality, your ad might be a top 10% ad and your landing page might be a bottom 25% landing page. So think about the lift you would get by increasing that or vice versa. So I think you got to look at each component of the funnel and literally spend an hour one day sitting down and walking through. I'm an external consumer to your business and I'm seeing this ad every time. Let me go through the customer journey and the life cycle to see where there's pain points and friction because a lot of time it's just there's two slides when it should be one page and you're losing half of the people between those. They're dropping off. So I would get very technical about going through the entire life cycle and seeing where people are falling off.
And I know how important data is, the cost per click, meta makes a lot of that for like you have that information available. You've got your own conversion rates available for your landing page. But with the landing page, like not every company is just going to be like, oh, like at the bottom of it, this landing page is a 50% conversion rate. This was, we don't see that at the bottom of landing pages. How can we tell what the industry standard is so we're actually able to tell if our landing page is like top or bottom 25%?
It varies. There's a lot of good reports. So a lot of the big email providers, landing page providers release these like annual, you could call them just data dumps where they put their annual report out and they show industry aggregate data. So there's a ton of good resources. Like if you look up your sector and you say blank for e-commerce landing page conversion, it won't be perfect and you're not going to know what's perfect, but it'll give you a rough range of all right, here's what's called plus or minus 5%. Here's the rough range you should be shooting for. And I think the more important one is look at your own baseline and benchmark because you can compete against industry all day, but I think you'd be shocked if you just run it against yourself as the control, how much upside there really is.
Yeah, I mean, those reports are, it's a really good idea because it may not be perfect, but they're compiling data from tens of thousands of people. So it's just a lot more reliable versus a study of like 100.
They have the craziest data. Like we use all of them, and it's just nice when you've, all right, this one email service provider had 2 billion emails sent last year. That's a lot of good data for us to go off of because we have a ton of data, but not that much data.
Yeah, the people who have that data, they get to come out with really good reports. They get to make really good decisions. I know that for this conversation so far, when it came to like growing the email list, there's this focus on using paid ads, Meta, Google. Uh, do you do some like content marketing, organic SEO efforts also, or is it heavy into the advertising?
I think it should be blended across the board. Like, I think that there's a misconception that you just gotta, I think you should go very deep on fixing and setting up proper channels. But I think of the best brands we see, it's integrated. Like, I think social works with SEO, works with blog writing, works with paid traffic, works with podcasts, works with everything, as long as it's cohesive, where it's not like one, the messaging's off across the board. But I think it applies across the board, truly. We spend most of our time in how can traffic lead to growing it, but there's a ton of like we've seen brands that we work with use influencers that crush it for growing email lists, or they'll work with only going on podcasts and crush it, or just run. There's an agency that I saw who it's Facebook ads running directly just to newsletter growth, and that's the only thing they do, and they crush. So I think there's a million ways to go about it, but my one recommendation is making sure that no matter how many channels you're on, it's cohesive because the worst thing you could do is have seven different pieces of messaging on the same brand landing in the same place. It leads to a lot of very confused consumers.
And it is interesting. There's so many different ways to get in front of more people, build your brand. Some, like Jesse's clients, they have really big budgets, so they're able to expand all these different things. But let's like narrow it a little bit for the solopreneur. They can't do every single thing. And they got lower budgets. So how can like the solopreneur go about big time email list growth um, in a cost effective way?
Yeah, I think the great part is with whether it's Meta or whoever it is, you don't need a crazy amount of money to test. Like I've seen people test on $10 a day and slowly ramp up. And the good part is the data is real time. So when you start seeing something convert and after you've tested, maybe you've tested $200 and you're starting to see indicators. Obviously, you're not going to get real data until you're three, $4,000 in, but you should have really good indicators by that point. And then the great part is it gets smarter from our experience. So the cool part about email list growth that we see is when customers are coming into an email list, we're then putting those email lists back in to create lookalike audiences. So for every name that comes in, it's making our ad audience group smarter and finding more people just like people that already subscribed. So typically we see the acquisition costs drop and the lists get more efficient. And it's not crazy expensive. It's not a hyper complicated process at a smaller scale. People can go and build lookalike audiences off of their existing customer base and learn along the way. And it should run relatively efficient and you'll be able to learn.
So I do personal finance right now. I was talking to Jesse about this a little bit earlier. I mean, a lot of people use the example or talk about anything like say about it. Oh, it's just a cup of Starbucks coffee. So I mean, if you're just doing that equivalent with online ads, you're getting very valuable data. And if you're in the situation, you spend 300, you make 400. It can take some time to get there. You just keep running that thing. It's a very small investment when you think of it as $10 a day. And if it works, you would absolutely want to make it $100 a day and scale up. One of the interesting things I've seen a lot more lately is SMS, where like name and email has always been like that's always been a requirement. But I've seen a lot more companies ask for the phone number now. I'm wondering if you could share why that's been the case, what you've seen for your clients, and the tool you use for SMS.
Yeah, it's huge. Like, I think it's such an I think there's two massive underrepresented areas in email and SMS as a channel. Number one is automation. So think workflows, automations, triggered emails, that sector. And then the other is SMS. You need to be more careful on SMS and intentional on your sends on SMS. But boy, does that thing kill it when done right. The thing we always say for SMS is when you're collecting names as like a welcome series or whenever somebody's coming from an ad, always do first name and email as the required field. If you put SMS, you're going to lose a lot of people that don't want to put their phone number in. So our general best practice that we use across the board for companies from $1 million businesses that are growing to $1 billion businesses that are optimizing is first name, email, step one, submit. Once they hit submit, give them a secondary offer to put in their phone number and maybe a couple interest things so you can tag them, but make it a multi-step form so that you're not losing anybody's email and first name, but you are having a far better likelihood of getting SMS info from them. And then on SMS, you just need to be a little more careful on how you're sending and segmenting. but that is an unbelievable channel that we use a lot for abandoned carts. Somebody looked at a product yesterday and it's releasing today. We know that they viewed in the last 24 hours, so we can send them an SMS, or they tried to buy something and it was out of stock, but it's now back. Tons of amazing opportunities on SMS there.
So with email marketing, you could do like a daily email depending on your industry. SMS, you can't do that at all. Is that what I'm getting at? Like a
Yeah.
weekly thing or
Our general rule of thumb on comms for I'm using e-commerce here as the example is we try and email the most engaged consumers almost every day. So think about those people as people are opening, clicking, might have recently purchased. They want to see the content. And it's a mix of sales stuff, educational content, information content. Then there's also emails that are going out to specific interests. So based off of what somebody's viewing, they're getting emails. The entire list is maybe getting 1 to 2 emails a week. So the non-engaged, you can call them colder, but they're still getting emails. And then SMS, there's usually each contact's probably only getting anywhere from 1 to 3, more 1 to 2 texts a week, depending on interest. So it could be three. If it's three, you got to know where you're meeting the consumer in their journey. Like, are they trying to buy this thing? Is it a variety of products? If yes, great. But you shouldn't be spamming somebody that wants X product with a totally different collection from your brand because it released. So normally we're only sending to maybe 14 or 15% of the total audience on SMS, depending on what an actual comms should be and what the offer is about.
and just for the SMS tool, because I know there's a lot of email tools.
Yeah.
What's your SMS tool of choice?
We've used so many because my typical rule is I think there's two things that I look at is number one, where is it integrated? So like a lot of brands are on Shopify. Does it integrate easily with Shopify? Does it integrate well with email? We've probably used almost everyone you could work with. I think for a lot of them, they've a lot of the big email platforms. So think like the Omnisends, the MailChimps, the bigger email service providers have SMS in-house. So for a lot of clients, we've run those because I just for simplicity and ease of tagging and customer use, it's easier to have it in one platform than say, hey, we're running email through Omnisend, but we're running SMS through another channel. It's a tougher thing. Attentive is obviously a great channel on there. There's a variety of really good ones. Twilio, whatever it is, Postscript, but generally we like keeping it in-house in one platform just for customer name, tagging, preferences, making sure they're not getting double comms. But I care less about platform and more about what is your strategy for segmenting how you're sending and how frequent you're sending.
Yeah, I mean, the strategy is more important. That's a really great point because the platform isn't gonna get you the subscribers. It's the strategy behind it. I know you mentioned you first asked for the name and email address, which is a great strategy because I feel like I mean, myself, I don't want to give my phone number to everybody. Like, I feel like that's more of a private thing for a lot of people. But then you have that follow-up page where you are asking for the SMS. So, like, what would be like the free offer to get the email address, and then how does it compare to that second offer where you're also then getting the SMS?
So typically the first level offers whatever the lead magnet was that they saw on Meta or whatever it was. So if it was like join our shopping spree giveaway or get X% off, that is the front offer on email. And then typically on SMS, it could go one of two ways. One is as simple as, do you want to be the first to know about new updates, releases, and offers? And there's no secondary offer besides the fact of do you want more info and preference check, and people will select that. The alternative is you can give a one-time thing. So if it's like, hey, join our giveaway on email, it could be on top of that, hey, do you want $5 off your next order? And
Hmm.
that's coming in. So I think that's also a ton of testing. We'll go into that, into what is the right offer for each brand and what works for their, but typically always match whatever your offer was on the ad to the first level opt-in, and then you can play around with the second level.
Hmm. Yeah, I'd be having them similar. It's definitely a smoother thing because if it's like, oh, like here's my like gardening guide, and then the opt-in is like a running guide, like that, there isn't
You're
really
like, what
synergy
happened?
there.
Yeah, no, and you'll confuse consumers. And number one, you lose trust. Number two, you burn money. Because if you're spending money on ad copy A and they get to the page and it's Landing page B, you're not going to have a lot of people convert and you're going to lose a lot of reputation.
And I know you've helped people get to 200,000 email subscribers. I'm sure you've definitely seen people who don't hit their email list goals, and there are some people who they're a little confused about what to do. So I'm wondering if you can share with us for people who they're short of their goal or they feel like they're stuck. What would you say are some of the key things that contribute to being stuck with the email list growth?
Yeah, I think number one is it's probably a lack of testing. Like I would be deploying one new test a week, no matter what. So dump all of your data into ChatGPT in terms of like your performance and ask it like we do this all the time just as a fun mind exercise. Like, what is the one indicator that I'm missing in here? And it's like, wow, subject lines that end in dot 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 are outperforming exclamation marks by 17%. That's interesting. So like I would play around with one variable at a time. I think there's a big issue if somebody's like, our thing isn't working, then they go try everything at the same time. And it works, but the issue is they have no idea what worked. Like was your subject line better? Was the copy better? Was the design better? Did you send to the right list? So I would come up with 5 or 6 variables. I would look at what's your segmenting. So how are you getting people into your funnel and how are you sending to them? What is your copy? So both on landing page and an email, what is the copy and the offer? And then I would look at design and what are people seeing through the process? What's it like on mobile? What's it like on email? But I would test each of those variables independently against the control and you should see it'll take a month to properly run and give enough of a statistical significance to understand what's happening. But that's where I would start. And I think you'd be shocked by the amount of data you'll see in a very quick time on what's outperforming a benchmark.
It's a lot of testing to get to where you want to go with any type of email campaign or marketing campaign. And Jesse's definitely done it with a lot of businesses. For people who want to learn more about you, Jesse, and your company, where do you suggest we go?
Yeah, I think, well, first off, thank you for having me. This was great. You can check out the work we're doing at vibermedia.com, which is VYBERmedia.com. You can reach out to me at Jesse, Jesse, at vibermedia.com. And then you can find me anywhere on social media, LinkedIn, X, wherever you'd expect to. Go on yourself. You could just look up Jesse K, Kay is my last name.
Well, Barry to Success Listeners, we will have those links in the show notes. Thank you, Jesse, for coming on the show. It was a pleasure to have you here today.
Thanks, Mark.